Right. So a little late in adding the recording here. So we're just looking at factoring a trinomial with a equals to -1, a leading coefficient of -1. Our first step is to factor it out of all three pieces, and so that's what I've done here. Now I need to look at what's inside the parentheses. And Tim, you said you wanted to break it down. So what's the next step?
All right, so it's going to be a negative. It's going to be a negative. So what Miss Cannon taught me is, if you, we didn't do it that way, but if it's whatever the second number is, the first number has to be. So it's going to be a negative. It's going to be positive and positive, right?
They're going to be one. No, one's positive, one's negative.
All right, so that was right then. All right, so negative and a positive. And what you do, you got to try to equal the middle number, but it has that last number too as well.
So they're going to multiply to be -30, and they're going to add to be -7. So we have to think about the factors of -30, and what Tim is saying is because if they have to multiply to be a negative, one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So they have to have different signs there. So we could have like -30 and +1, 30 and -1. We could have 6 and -5. Or 5 and -6. None of these are working right now to be -7.
It's going to be 30. It's going to be 3. It's going to be 3.
3 and 10?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have 3 and -10. Good. That's the choice that we want to use because they multiply to be -30, but they add to be -7. So we're going to say 3 and -10. Now, if you remember how we have to rewrite our middle term here, we're going to do this. I'm just going to erase this to give myself some room.
Why do we factor?
We're factoring. The factors end up being part of the graph. Moody?
Could it be -3 and 10?
No. Because they have to add to be -7. That would give you a +7. Now, Moody, if this was a plus, I would agree with you. But because we factored the negative out, it's a negative. Okay? Now, here's an important thing. This negative stays along for the ride the entire time. People tend to drop it off, so be real careful with that. The negative stays there. So I'm just going to kind of put little brackets here to kind of remind me that the negative stays along. X squared, and then we do have that -30, and all I'm doing is rewriting that middle term. Rather than -7x, what am I looking for? Plus 3x minus 10x. Very good. I use these two numbers right here. Minus 10x. I'm literally just taking this and rewriting it into two pieces.
How does that help you?
Because you were not here in an IHOP on Friday, I can show you in just a second. Okay, but you were whenever you're absent, you're supposed to watch the recording, and I recorded it and explained it. Oh, it wasn't? Hopefully it's working now. All right, so here we are. We are going to look at the first two and the last two. We're going to be grouping. Okay? And when we group these, what is the GCF that can be taken out of x squared and 3x? X. Remember, the negative stays along for the ride. Greatest common factor. So when I take out an x, what am I left with? X plus 3. What absolutely 100% must be in those parentheses with the second pair? X plus 3. Remember that these absolutely 100% must be the same or it's not factorable. Is there anything that I can take out of the second pair that will leave me with an x plus 3? -10. So my two factors become x minus 10 and x plus 3. And what stays along for the ride? The negative stays out in front. So that is completely factored. Okay? I'm teaching you how to rewrite it with making it a 4-term thing because what we're going to do the second half where we have a number like a 2 out in front, it's going to make it a lot easier if you know how to do it this way first. Okay? And so you basically take it out. You don't ignore it because think about this, Daniel. If you just take it away from the first term, it's not going to work. you have to remember to take it out of everything first, okay? So we have to change all the signs. Then you can just ignore it till the end, okay? But you had to change that here. Yes, ma'am. Why would there be two -3s in the brackets? Why is it x plus 3? Okay, because this is a plus. And then this is because I know they have to be the same. If I say -10 times x, I get -10x. -10 times 3, I get -30. So I knew I had to take out a -10 there. Okay? But these two 100% must be the same. All right? All right, another question. Go ahead, Chris. All right, what I'd like for you guys to do is, remember how I had you skip problems 3, 5, and 7 on here? These 3, 5, and 7 are exactly like this. So I want you to work on these.
So if I do it this way, can I keep going lower?
If you can do the rest of them like that, that's totally fine. This is one way to factor. Sorry, Louise. There's probably 5 different ways, and depending on your teacher, it can be done differently. That's fine. Do 3, 5, and 7. So let's look at problem number 3. You guys were asked to do problems 3, 5, and 7. You need to have all, at this point, 1 through 9 complete. We are going to move on and do the next section of 10 through 18. We'll work on those for the last half of class, but we have to add to our foldable to do it. Let's make sure that we have 3 correct. If you notice, problem number 3, we do have a leading coefficient that is -1. So it's just like the problem we just did. We need to factor that out. So when I take the negative out, what's left? X squared plus x minus 12. Very good. And that negative is along for the ride. Okay? And at this point, we're going to go ahead and say factor what's left inside the parentheses. They have to multiply to be -12. They have to add to be 1. We need to think about the factors of -12, which means since the factors are negative, one's positive, one's negative. So we're going to have one negative number and one positive number. What are some numbers that multiply to be 12 that add to be 1? 4 and 3. Which one's negative?
4
So 4 and -3. Wouldn't those add to be +1, which is what I want? So -3 and +4. So we're going to go ahead and keep that there for the ride. We have x squared minus 3x plus 4x minus 12. Then we're going to group the first two, group the last two. Again, the negative, I'm just going to kind of just write it down here. Negative x squared, I'm sorry, not x squared. What do I take out of the first two? Just an x. And I'm left with x minus 3. I absolutely 100% have to have an x minus 3 over here. What can I take out of the next two that will leave me with an x minus 3? A 4. So my factors, the negative stays there, are x plus 4 and x minus 3. Hopefully that's what you guys got. Not right this second. No. All right. Did you guys get that for number 3? Why not? You didn't even do it. You just sat there and looked at it, Chris. Good. Yes, Moody. It doesn't matter. Yeah, as long as the negative goes with the 3 and the 4 is positive, that's right. Okay? All right, so at this point, you should have 1 through 9 complete. Okay? If you would, let's get our foldables back out. Okay? We're going to add to it. And we're going to add one more step today. Okay? One more step. When there's a GCF, you're going to take it out. Okay? So we're going to look at 2 examples. So what I want you to do is at the bottom here, I want you to take, oops, hang on. Let's see if we can go backwards. I don't even know what I just did. Awesome. Hang on. This is what you should write at the bottom of your next blank tab. Trinomial A is not equal to 1. In other words, a leading coefficient can be a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6. Okay? Yes, this is the next tab. You're going to do 2 different examples. You're going to split your page. Okay? We're going to split our page. We can actually say A is bigger than 1. Maybe that's even more clear. We should probably write it this way. Okay? So trinomial with A greater than 1. In other words, the leading coefficient, or the number in front, can be something other than 1 or negative 1. It could be a 2, it could be a 3, it could be a 4. The first example is here, okay? 2x squared plus 2x minus 24. And on the right-hand side, I want you to use this example. 5x squared minus 8x minus 4. Okay? So we have two different examples we're going to put in our foldable today. These are harder to factor. Are we going to do what? Oh, on here? We're not going to fill this out all today. No. This is really the last new thing we're going to do. And then this afternoon we'll just do more practice with these. We'll get our boards out, we'll wear whiteboards, and we'll practice this factoring technique. I'd like you to. Okay? So, if you look at the left-hand side, and this is what I always want you to look for first, no matter what. Notice that what is the first kind of factoring that I have listed here on your foldable is GCF. So you always want to look for the GCF. Okay? If you look at the left-hand side, is there a GCF that you can take out? A 2. And that's what you need to do. Okay? So what I mean is this. If there's a GCF, take it out. That's important. And there is here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take out the 2. When I take out the 2, what's left? X squared plus x minus 12. I've taken the GCF out. Sometimes you can do that. And I always want you to check for that first. Okay? So take your GCF out if there is one. And there was on the left-hand side. Uh-huh. Yes. Well, that's not true. I mean, you will eventually, you can take it out now or at the end. Okay? The same number, they can go into all of them. So I'm going to look at what's inside the parentheses and ask you're so lost. Help me out, Alexis. What are you so lost with? I can hear everything. I'm a mother of 3. I've been teaching for 20 years. You don't know what a GCF is? Go ahead. It is. Alexis. How I figured out it was 2? How I got this or how I got what was given to me? The parentheses. I noticed that 2 goes into all of those things. So I wrote it outside the parentheses. And then I basically divided each of those numbers by 2. So yes, I did. 2 divided by 2 is 1. I could write a 1 there if I wanted to, but I don't have to. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Again, I could write it there if I wanted to. 24 divided by 2 is 12. Okay? I factored it out. I had to take a 2 out of all 3 pieces, not just the first one. I factored out of all of them. Focus. So I have to look at what's left inside the parentheses, just like I took the negative out, right? Now I have to look at what's left. Can I factor what's inside the parentheses? So we have to check. We need to go ahead and do our little X thing. The 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 12, but add to be a positive 1. Good. And this is the part that takes some practice. Some people can get it very quickly, like Raul can come up with the 2 numbers very quickly. Some of us, it takes more practice. I, in the beginning, like to write down all the factors of negative 12. Negative 12 and positive 1, 12 and negative 1, 6 and negative 2, etc. We can keep listing them, but Raul went ahead and said that it's 4 and negative 3, because these two numbers multiply to be negative 12, but they add to be positive 1. 4 and negative 3. So again, that 2 is along for the ride. At this point, if you wanted to just do this to remind yourself to put it at the end, that's fine. I'm going to worry about factoring what's inside the parentheses. The first number stays, the last number stays. I'm rewriting this middle term with 4x and negative 3x. And then I'm going to look at grouping. Grouping the first two and grouping the last two. When I look at the first two, I'm looking at what can I take out of x squared and 4x. Travis, what is the GCF of the first two terms? You believe it's what? It is x. So when I take out the x, what am I left with? When I take out an x of x squared, what am I left with? X plus 4. And I know for 100% I have to have an x plus 4 over here. What can I take out of the next two terms that will leave me with an x plus 4? Minus 3. And at this point, I'm almost done factoring. I have 2, and then I have two sets of parentheses, x minus 3 and x plus 4. And this is the factored form. I had a GCF, okay? I took it out. That's what I needed to do. Took out the GCF and I factored what's left. If you look at your number 10 through 18, they all have a GCF as well. I'd like for you to try number 10 right now, okay, before we do the next one. Go ahead and try problem number 10. Do the GCF, factor those out. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to first take a 3 out here, and I take a 3 out of absolutely everything, so I should have a 5x and a 4 with what's left. Okay? Yes, sir. Okay, well, hang on. There's 30 other people in here. I know you do, and I'm thankful for that, actually. So at this point, I am not finished. I've only done the first step, which is take out the 3. I took out the GCF. I still have to factor what's left in the parentheses. So we need to think about two numbers that multiply to be 4 and add to be 5. Two numbers that multiply to be 4 and add to be 5. What are they? 4 and 1. It's nothing really difficult here. So again, the 3 is along for the ride. At this point, if you recognize that this is the factoring, I'm fine with that. I am showing you the rewrite of the middle term because what we're about to do this afternoon, which is the second half of our foldable on the other side, this becomes a little bit more difficult when you have a number in front that's not a GCF. Okay? That 5x squared minus 8x minus 4 one, those are harder, a lot harder. So I show this step only because I want to get us ready for the harder ones. And we're going to go ahead and group the first two. We're going to group the last two. And you can kind of see the pattern here. X plus 4. Has to be an x plus 4 over here. Just take out a 1. And that's where I got the answers. Okay?
That's the answer right there.
Yeah.
Bottom one.
If, folks, you have a is equal to 1 with what I'm factoring, these two numbers will always be these two numbers in the factoring. Okay? You can kind of omit the two middle steps. I show this to you because when we get to the more difficult ones, like this one here this afternoon, you have to do it the way I do it. Okay? So, be patient with me. Realize I understand that if you can figure out the two numbers, you can go straight here. I will let you do that. You don't have to do the middle step. Okay? But show me how you got those two numbers. Fair enough? So what I want you to work on, we only have about 10 minutes left. I want you to continue to work on 10 through 18. Okay? We will do the more difficult ones this afternoon. Okay, so we're done with our foldable for right now. But 10 through 18 is what the GCF problems is what I want you to work on right now, okay?